Hello, hello. I am Coach Corey Sartori. I empower high achieving women to grow in their self love, confidence, and relationships for a more fulfilling personal life. Today, I am going to talk to you about why growth isn't optional when you want more out of life. And I am sharing this with you because I'm speaking from personal experience that if you want growth, it is work. And when you want to live a life you love, you will grow if you're willing to put in the work. And so most of you know my story. I spent a lot of my 20s in a codependent toxic relationship. And I always wanted a different life. I wanted to be happier, but I didn't know what to do. And I didn't realize that I needed to put in the work, right? I just thought that magically it would come to me. And that's not how it happened. I look back and I did the same thing over and over, expecting a different result. Like I was the definition of insanity. And I think we've all heard that change is inevitable. Growth is optional. And in my 20s, I had a lot of changes, but I wasn't making changes to the way I showed up or the way I acted. I had changes to my friends. I bought my first condo when I was 24. I had changes in my career, but I wasn't growing in any place outside of my career. I was successful at work, but when it came to my personal life or anything else, it was really a mess. And I was 30 years old and I was still doing the same thing. I was still dating the same person, drinking every night, and didn't have any goals with my personal life, didn't have a vision for my future or where I was headed. And so I wasn't growing. I wasn't becoming a better person. I feel like as years went on, I became more and more unhappy. And when I was 31, I ended my codependent relationship. And I did say in the conversation when we were breaking up, I am the definition of insanity because I keep doing the same thing, expecting a different result. And so there wasn't a lot of growth for me in my 20s through that toxic codependent relationship. And then when I ended that relationship, I was still miserable. I wasn't happy. And for me, this is where growth came in really big. I remember probably one of the first things that I was introduced to for self-development was the documentary The Secret, where they talk a lot about manifestation and vision work and things like that. And so in late 2013 is when I started my own vision and goals practice, and I really started focusing on manifestation because I wanted a different life. I was unhappy. I didn't want to be drinking the pain away. I wanted to be present in my life and I wanted to feel joy. And so I had to start putting in the work. And I didn't realize at the time how powerful the work would be. I didn't realize how hard it would be. But I tell you now, it is 100% worth it because your life changes and things will happen in your life and you can take the opportunity to grow from them, or you can be a victim to them. And in my 20s, I was a victim to my life. Everything was somebody else's fault. It wasn't my fault. I didn't take personal responsibility or accountability for everything. I lied, I blamed, and I just wasn't overall a good person. And so when I started doing self-development and work, my whole world opened up. And it's interesting to look back because you do hear, that growth is optional. And for me, once I started self-development, it wasn't an option. Growth was the only way to go because I'd already spent over a decade of my life miserable and unhappy, and it wasn't serving me. And I promise you that growth is hard. And one thing that I also have realized is that you are going to keep going through the same things or having the same situations happen to you until you learn from them. And for me, that's where growth wasn't optional. I think how many times did I break up with my toxic codependent partner over and over again and always would end up back in that same relationship, and it didn't serve me. And it's because I didn't learn my lesson. I couldn't wrap my head around that this is an opportunity for me to learn from this experience and to grow from this experience. I didn't choose to grow. And so I just kept doing the same thing over and over. And I share with my clients, until you learn the lesson that the universe or God is trying to give you, you will continue to be handed the same relationships, the same career issues, the same money problems these issues, these hard things that are coming up for you in your life, this is your opportunity to grow. And I will never say that everything happens for a reason, but everything in your life happens to help you grow. And you can grow from any experience, no matter how hard it is. So, I never will say that things happen for a reason, because I think there's too many things in the world that are awful and there's no reason for them to happen. But from every experience, everything that happens to you in your life, it is an opportunity for you to grow from it. And, that over a decade of being in a really hard relationship, I never grew through it until I was completely out of it. And when I started to put in the self-work and the self-development, my growth has not stopped since then. So since 2013, all I've been doing is growing and growing and growing. And I'm incredibly grateful for it, because now I look back on the way that my life was and how much time and energy and money I have put into changing myself and growing myself and becoming the best version of me. If I hadn't taken that time to do that, then there would have been no way that I would have been able to get through cancer last year and my infertility issues, right? They probably would have broken me. They probably would have defeated me. But because I'd spent so much time working on myself and growing myself, last year when I was going through these really hard things, I grew. I grew so much. I grew into a better mom, a better wife, a better coach, a better daughter, a better sister. I grew so much going through those hard things because I chose to grow through it rather than be a victim to it. I could have very easily just been defeated and let life hold me down, but I chose to grow from all of those hard experiences. I chose to grow from my diagnosis of cancer. I chose to grow from, the infertility issues and all my embryos being lost. I chose to grow from it rather than sitting and being a victim to it. And so growth isn't optional when you start to put in the work, and it is so powerful. And I will tell you that it's a lot of work. Continuing to work on yourself is not easy. It's definitely challenging at times, but it is incredibly worth it. There's times where clients sign on with me and they think that they're going to pay me and I'm going to give them this magical pill to fix their life, and that's not how it works. Growth is hard, but when you start to put in the work, growth is the only option. And so I wanted to share that with you today. If you are ready to start living a life you love, if you want your whole world to open up, you have to start putting in the work by choosing to do self-growth and self-development. And if you're somebody who thinks like, oh my gosh, the world just keeps handing me a pile of shit, then check in and see if this is the same thing that's been happening over and over and over, because you will continue to have the same problems if you do not learn from them and grow from them. I've worked with clients in the past where they have toxic relationships, codependent relationships, just like I did. And, those are the same relationships they're constantly finding. They're constantly finding that same relationship with somebody else. And so I challenge them, well, what have you learned? You have to learn something from that so it doesn't continue to happen to you, or you have to show that you are not going to let it happen again, right? I got to the point where when I was after that relationship, when I was dating men, I got very clear on who I wanted and who they needed to be. And I didn't want to go back to being an enabler or codependent. And so I was very specific on the qualities that person needed to have for me to choose them as a partner. And I had to get aware, if somebody came into my life that had, a lot of the same problems of toxicity and codependency, then that was a red flag for me, because I'd already been there. And if I just had continued to date and be in those relationships, then I would have just kept ending up in the same crappy place, which I did for a while. And once I figured it out, oh, okay, I actually am just attracting the same BS. And I finally learned from it, and I finally learned my self-worth and how to love myself, then I was able to really shift. And so when you want more out of life, when you want more happiness, when you want more enjoyment, when you want more life balance, you have to be willing to put in the work. And when you do, you will grow and you will grow and you will grow. And so growth will not be an option anymore. It'll just be something that is constantly happening for you. And I promise you, it is so powerful. There's going to be growing pains. And I think for me as an entrepreneur, there's times where it's like I feel defeated or I feel overwhelmed because running a business is hard and building a business from the ground up is difficult. But I know that it's an opportunity for me to reflect and to learn and to grow and make changes as necessary. And so I challenge you, if you are feeling defeated or overwhelmed, like check in. Is this the same pattern that's been following you around for years? And what changes do you need to make? And where do you want to grow in your life? Like, get really clear on that. Who's the person that you want to be and how do you want to show up in the world? Because when you have that clarity of this is where I'm going to be 5 years from today, this is who I'm going to be 5 years from today, your whole entire world opens up. And so I challenge you to decide who you want to be and start putting in the work to get there, because you will grow and you will grow and you will grow and you will find so much value in it, even when it's difficult and even when it's hard. So I hope you found value in this live. I hope that you choose to take on growth. And I have 4 spots left for my one-on-one coaching for May, and I would love to support you in healing and growing, whether you need to heal yourself and you need to start finding your self-worth and self-love. Or maybe you need to build your confidence. Maybe you want to grow your business. And so I can support you with all of that. So I have 4 spots open for May. Go ahead and send me a DM with the word program and we'll get connected and I will show you how my coaching program can help you transform your life. Thank you for being here and I hope to see you soon.